Hello, dear teacher. My name is Edita Irene Ramon Lavanda. I am in the 6th academic cycle. In this video, I will be talking about the differences between indirect objects, direct objects, and oblique objects. First, let's review what is the object. An object is a noun, pronoun, or a noun phrase that is affected by the action of the verb or preposition in a sentence. Objects are usually nouns that answer questions like who, what, where, and when. Overall, they are very useful since add more information or details to a sentence in order to convey an understandable message. A sentence may have one, none, or a combination of the three kinds of object that I already mentioned: indirect object, direct, and oblique object. Direct object. What is a direct object? The direct object of a verb is the thing acted upon, or in other words, the direct object is a noun or a noun phrase and the pronouns that receives the action of the verbs. It is important to say that it is never preceded by a preposition. So in this case, we have to take into account this part. To identify the direct object, we can just follow two simple tips. The first tip is that you have to take into account that a direct object follows transitive verbs. If we can remember, transitive verbs are verbs that require a direct object in order to make a sentence with a full meaning. The next tip is that we have to find the verb of a sentence and ask ourselves, what or who? Let's look at these examples. Jefferson Perez won the first Olympic medal. Jefferson Perez is, as we know, is the subject. It is the one performing the action and what the sentence is about. Now, the verb won it is the verb, as I already said, this is the action being performed by the subject. And the first Olympic medal is the direct object that receives the action of the verb. The next example is Peter bought an English book. Now, at the same way, here we have in the verb. This verb is a transitive verb. And here we have the direct object, English book. So remember the transitive verb follows, the direct object follows transitive verb. So here we have the direct object, the direct object. The next example is my daughter lost the keys. If we use the second tip, we can ask this question. My daughter lost, but lost what? Now, here we have the answer. The answer is the keys. Now, the next type of object is indirect object. Indirect find and indirect object is fairly simple. once the direct object has been identified. The direct object of a verb receives the direct object. It could be a noun or pronoun. At the same way, I want to tell you two tips that are very helpful to identify this type of object. The first tip is that you have to take into account that an indirect object is always before or after the direct object. Since to have an indirect object in a sentence, there must first be a direct object. That also means that only transitive verbs can have an indirect object as direct object. The next tip is that you have to ask yourself to whom or for whom. If the sentence tells you the answer to this question, now you have found the direct object. An extra tip that I want to tell you is that indirect objects are often people or animals, and direct objects are often things. For example, my husband bought a gift to his mother. Let's ask, for whom did my husband buy a gift? Our answer is the indirect object. In this case, our answer is his mother. His mother is the indirect object because she receives the gift that my husband bought. The next example is Lies did not Lies did not give his new wife an engagement ring. As you can see, here we have the indirect object. As I already told you, is the indirect object could be after or before the direct object. In this case, it is before. Before. In this case, is his new wife. And the next example is the teacher provided students a helpful feedback. The same way, here we have the direct object, that is feedback, and here we have the indirect object, that is students. So if we ask, if we use the second tip and ask for whom or to whom, we find in this sentence the answer. So the answer is the indirect object. Now the next type of object is oblique object. What is oblique object? Now, oblique object, or sometimes called the object of a preposition, is a noun phrase, or pronoun that comes after a preposition. As the same way, here we have two tips. The first tip is that we have to ask the questions where or when. And also, another tip is that we could follow the form. This form is a preposition plus object of the preposition. As we can see in the next example. The first example is the president of my community lives next to the school. In this case, we have to find the preposition first of all. What is the preposition in this sentence? This next to. Now, if we follow the form preposition plus object of the preposition, so school, this word school, this noun is is an oblique object. Now, the next example is my friend's mother-in-law works at the hospital. We know that works is the verb and at is the preposition. So let's ask ourselves the question: what is noun or pronoun that comes after? Obviously, here we have obviously hospital. So hospital, so this noun, hospital, is what we call the oblique object. Now, the last example is Martha found a cat in the dump. As the same way, here we have the preposition plus the object of the preposition, that is dump. Or we can use the first tip. Or we can ask the question where. For example, where did Martha found a cat? Now the answer is in the dump. So it is an oblique object. That's all, dear teacher. I hope you have enjoyed. Thank you very much.